Alright, so now we're going to be compiling our own version of the kernel. The first thing we're going to do obviously is download tar.gz from kernel.org. I already have one here. So you actually have 3. Then you're going to want to untar the version that you want to use. Use the J flag to get rid of the BZ and just give it the name of the archive. And it's actually going to take a few minutes to get the whole thing unpacked, and when it does, it's going to create a folder with the same name, which you're going to cd into. Take a look at uname -r, you can see that our current version of the kernel is 2.6.32. Go into our new version of Linux and start getting it set up. First thing we want to do is get the configuration set up. You can use make menu config to do that in a very nice simple manner. Chances are we're going to get an error because you do need the lib incurses development libraries installed. You can get that pretty simply on Debian by using the apt-get command. So you want to install incurses lib5-dev. Actually, sorry, that would be lib incurses 5-dev. We would change that. There we go. Alright, now once we have that installed, we should be able to run make menu config. And it presents a pretty nice menu for us to go through and turn on and off options. It's pretty simple to use. You see at the top it tells you can press Y to include something in the kernel, you can press N to exclude it, or you can press M to make it a module. You can go through the menus by enter, up, down. You can press tab to change the bottom selection. So I can change that to exit and get out of here. I'm not going to save it, but you could if you use that route. If you don't want to try to configure it yourself, you can take a look in /boot. You'll see that there's other config files there for your other versions of the kernel. So these config files have already worked with the previous version of the kernel. So you can go ahead and copy one of those over to .config in your kernel install directory if you would like. Make this a little bigger so that you can see. It's called .config. And then run the make menu or make old config option. And it's going to ask you to select some changes. I'm going to go ahead and just hold enter down and select all the default values. Skip to the end here because it's pretty long. Alright, so after we've held enter down and got the old config set up, we are ready to to compile. This is going to take forever, so I'm going to run it with the time command and see once it's finished. You may want to go eat some lunch. Alright, so that took about 62 minutes. May take longer or shorter for you, but it's going to take a while. Next thing you want to do after compiling the kernel is to install the modules with make modules install. And that's going to take about 30 seconds. And there we go, 29 seconds. Once you have the modules installed, you can run a make install, which will actually install the actual kernel very quickly. You see it copied the kernel image over to the /boot directory. Do an ls on it, and you see that we have 3 new files here. And the first one we have is the actual kernel image. We have the system.map image automatically, and we have the config that we made. What we're missing is the initial RAM disk image. You see we have one for 2.6. You want to do that using the make init ram fs command like this, with a -o flag for an output file name. We're going to call it initrd.image-3.3.8, like that. And then give it the kernel version you're making this for, which is obviously 3.3.8. Once it's done that, you can do another ls and /boot and see we now have the new init RAM disk in there. And the last thing we want to do is upload our bootloader, which for you is probably grub. So we're going to do an update-grub command, which is going to search through this boot directory and set up menus for every new thing found. Alright, once we've done that, we can do a reboot. We should be at our new kernel version. So this is in my virtual machine, so this is what it's showing me as we're booting it up. If you have issues with your kernel, then you'll have to load an old one from here. Otherwise, you can just load this new one, 3.3.8. This is the grub menu. So we're now loading up 3.3.8. We eventually get there, and we can go to our terminal, run the uname -r command again, and see that we have indeed updated our kernel.